Hello everyone, this is Rebecca Jane from Yoga with Rebecca Jane, and welcome to our back bend series. This class will be focusing on the bow. And what's so wonderful about this posture is that it stretches out the entire front of your body. Everything you can imagine is being stretched. So you're talking about your groin, your tummy, your chest, your shoulders, the front of your shoulders. And then while you're doing that, the back of your body is being strengthened. Any level of yoga student can practice this. There's modifications to it. I will show you a few. One would be using a rolled up blanket. I would suggest when you get a chance, you could put me on pause and just find a rolled up blanket or get a blanket and have it ready to use. And I'll show you how to do that as we get to the posture. It's the peak pose. So what that really means is that we have some preparation to do before we get there. And in order to get to peak poses, which are the more challenging pose, is warming up the muscles that are going to be needed in that posture. So by the time you get there, you'll be pretty warmed up and ready to at least give it your best shot. I always say give it your best shot. So lots of good stuff with this. And also bow poses are back bends. So what's nice about back bends is that they trigger the sympathetic nervous system, which is the stress response. Well, okay, do you want to be stressed? No. It actually, what it does is it's invigorating, it's energizing. So if you find you're in a little bit of a funk, especially whatever time of the day it is for you or the year it is for you, if you feel like you need a little oomph, this is really good. You could be still feeling really good and enjoying this even more. So back bends are something that kind of lifts your mood. They're mood lifters, while forward bends, it's not that they make you more depressed. They actually are more calming. So there's positives, and that's why we counter our back bends with forward bends, and we even out the those feelings, those hormones. Okay, so we'll get started with just sitting for a moment and taking just a pause to just feel in, center. This is the first part of the beginning of a yoga practice. So sitting in your cross-legged seat, or what they call easy seat, letting your eyes close, shoulders, lift them towards your ears and let them roll back and down, soften down. The concept that I'm paying attention to during this class, or it's being our focus, is the effortless effort. And what that actually means is that we're going to put effort into our practice and our postures, but at the same time there's going to be a relaxed calmness to it. Kind of what I refer to as the softening around the edges. And as we practice, especially when we're doing something like a bow, which can be quite challenging for most of us, including myself, when we eventually are in that pose, we then soften it. We soften around it, so that we're not holding on to tension or creating more tension that is necessary. Okay, so let's begin simply by breathing in and breathing out, coming into that Ujjayi breath. This is the beginnings of the softening around the edges. And let's gently open our eyes. And let's come off of our blanket, and I'm just going to get my blanket prepared to show you later. It's a rolled up version of this blanket. So I have it handy. It's right there. Coming onto your back. Once on your back, let's stretch through the arms and legs. I
like to start on my back as often as possible because I think it's a perfect place to stretch our bodies in a way that we can't quite access when we're sitting or standing. So let's hug the knees into the chest. It's also very gentle. It's a gentle way of beginning our classes. Once you have hugged your knee into your chest, keep your right knee there and extend your left leg on the ground. If your lower back lifts off, feel free to just put your left foot flat on the ground if you'd like, but otherwise extend it. Hug the knee into the chest. This you could use a strap, put it around your foot or not. That's an option. So I want you to just let yourself breathe in and begin to feel into the backs of those legs. What do they feel like at this moment in time? And as you stretch the leg out, you're creating a little bit of tension in your leg. Soften around the edges. And how you do that is you use your breath, evening out the inhalation and exhalation, and softening the face, softening the eyes, softening the lips. Then from here, either with a strap on the ball mound of that right foot, or grab hold of that big toe or ankle, or lower down, and open that leg out to the right side. Left hand on your left hip. Keep that left hip down. Your leg doesn't have to be straight here. It can be a soft bend or bent. It's not a huge deal. And then from here, take an inhale, lift your right leg back up, and let's take your left hand, or both straps with the left hand on the outside of that right leg, and open your right arm out to the right. And let's cross your right leg over your left. You could come even as far, if you'd like, to bring the foot all the way down, or about halfway. It really depends on what you need at this moment. Right now, I feel like I need more of a glute stretch, a piriformis stretch, which is, let's think about the hips, around the hips and the bottom muscles. We want those to stretch out. So that's why I'm not bringing it all the way down. And then let's bring your right knee back in, hug your knee into your chest, and then invite your left leg in as well. Little rocks from side to side. And now keep the left knee into your chest, right leg extends. Choices of flattening out that right foot if you'd like. If your lower back is, you cannot maintain the lower backs, but you can't keep the lower back on the ground. So hug the knee into your chest, take an inhale and extend your left leg as you exhale. Straighten it. Use straps if that helps, or just hands on your leg or on your big toe, depending on the flexibility in the backs of those legs. And take a breath in. And take a breath out. And then take an inhale, right hand on your right hip, and exhale the left leg out to the side. It doesn't have to go very far. Now you have to remember, this is the beginning of our practice. This is the very beginning. No need to push yourself. Remember the idea of effortless effort. Make some effort, but not overly doing it at this point either. And then softening around the edges of this stretch. And then gently inhale and exhale the left leg towards the ceiling, and then right hand on the outside of that left leg, or both straps in your left hand or your right hand, and cross your left leg over. Maybe halfway down or as far as touching the big toe to the ground. Now, I feel a lot of sensation in my left side of my hip and glute muscles. So what this means is that I need to breathe into it. I need to soften around it rather than become tense. My shoulder, because what will happen, all of a sudden your shoulders will become tense, your face will tense up, and then it makes it harder, and you're not actually you're not stretching out that area as you would if you were a little bit more relaxed. Hug your knees into your chest. Little rocks from side to side. Now place your feet flat on the ground. We're going to warm up our core muscles with some Ana Forrest Abdominals, which I'm continuing to bring into my classes on a regular basis because they're probably one of the best abdominal and core strengtheners that I know of. There are other ones that planks are wonderful as well, but these get deep into the transverse abdominis muscles, those deep muscles. Now, feet flat on the ground, bring your hands behind your head, elbows angle in towards each other. You don't have to put a block between your legs, or that blanket that you had, you could just double it up and place that between your legs if you wanted to. But other than that, just keep the legs flat on the ground. Take an inhale, lift your head and shoulders up, elbows angle in towards each other. Hold the breath, lift the tailbone up. And then exhaling, elbows reach up a little higher. As you do the exhalation, your tummy muscles are pulling in. Your sit bones are engaged. So in other words, glute muscles are working. You're squeezing them up and in. And legs are squeezing in towards each other. There's lots of things happening in this pose. And then inhaling, lowering the tailbone down, and just coming to the upper part of your back. You could stay in that. That might be just enough for you, or reach your legs up to the sky or to a 90-degree angle. I'm going to bring my legs straight. Push through the ball mounds of those feet. Lower your head down first to start, to get this, to set yourself up. And then taking an inhale, elbows reach towards, head and shoulders lift up, and your elbows are reaching towards the ceiling. Squeeze the legs, and then holding the breath, tailbone lifts. Exhaling, elbows reach higher, a little bit higher. They're not going very far, but as you do this, pull the tummy muscles in. Squeeze the bottom cheek, squeeze the legs. Soften the face, soften the mouth, and then keep your legs up, or you can decide to bring them down and do the very first version we practiced. Let's do this one more time, holding the breath, lift the tailbone, squeeze the block or whatever you have between the legs, and exhale, elbows reach up towards the ceiling, looking towards your tummy, pulling the tummy muscles in, squeezing those bottom cheeks, and then exhale, let's lower the feet down and just release the hands and place them on your rib cage just for a moment. You can remove the block for the time being. We can actually use that for our bridge in a moment. Let's take a few breaths in and a few breaths out. Okay. We're going to move on to elbow to knee. So this is done without anything between the legs, but your legs are squeezing together. We'll start with the very first. We'll do one with the feet on the ground. This is the basic version of elbow to knee, the Ana Forrest, or legs are up at a 90-degree angle. But we'll start with the feet down. Hands behind your head, the same thing as what we did before. Elbows angle in towards each other. You're holding, first inhale, elbows and shoulders up. And then holding the breath, tailbone lifts. Then exhale, lift your left knee up and don't bring it any further than your hip. There you go. And then twist your elbows towards the knee, but lift up towards the ceiling. Push through the ball mount of that left foot. Lots of things to think about. Belly pulls in. Squeezing those bottom cheeks. Exhale, lower the left foot down and lower the tailbone down. Come to the upper part of your shoulders. Breathing in, and then holding the breath, lift tailbone. Exhale, right knee lifts just as high as in line with your hip bone. Push through the right ball mound of that right foot. And then taking an inhale, lift and twist as you exhale. I'm giving you a lot of breathing here because we're doing it very, very slow. So we're going to lower down, just come down, but keep your head up for a moment. We're going to do this faster. I'm not doing the 90-degree angle one. I'll keep the feet on the ground for this particular elbow to knee. Okay, holding the breath, lift the tailbone. Exhaling, lift your left knee up. Exhaling, elbows twist and lift towards the ceiling. Pull the belly in and then lower down. As you inhale, lower the tailbone down. Keep the head up, shoulders and head up. Holding the breath, lift your tailbone up. Exhale, right knee up, and then twist your elbows towards that right knee and lift them a little bit higher. They're not going very far here, and then inhaling back to center, lowering the right foot down and come all the way down. Give yourself a hug. Let it all go. Let all that tension that you've most likely accumulated. And then we're going to place the feet back down. Let's walk our feet slightly wider than our hip bones. Touch the tip of your middle fingers. Then you're ready to do your bridge. Bridges where you lift your tailbone off the ground. You'll follow me. Arms resting next to the sides. Take a breath in. Arch the back, exhale, press your lower back into the ground, and then lift your tailbone up. Then if you can go higher than that, your lower back, middle back, and possibly your upper back if you feel that your abs are warm enough. Once you lift up, take a pause here. Option to place your hands underneath interlace the hands underneath your tailbone. Roll each shoulder under one another and then roll them under so you can squeeze the shoulder blades closer to one another and then lift up. You'll feel it, you can go higher. If you cannot get your shoulders roll, if you cannot do that, your shoulders just won't roll, then keep the hands next to your sides. Taking a breath in, and as you breathe out, let's release the hands from underneath your back and lower yourself down. Whew. That's a nice, and then place the soles of the feet together, hands resting on your hips, your pelvis, taking a breath in and taking a breath out. That's take an inhale, and that's exhale, legs together. Help the legs together with your hands, hug your knees into your chest, and roll up, forward or onto one side. And then swing around onto our hands and knees. Whew, that should feel nice. Already you're warmed up. Not quite enough yet, but you're warmed up. Press back into your child's pose. Take a pause here. Forehead resting on the ground, inhaling and exhaling. Keep breathing in and out. And then take an inhale, slide your hands to your knees, sit on your heels. Open up the feet so that they're outside your hips. This is called the hero's pose, sitting between the legs. If this doesn't feel right at all, this is where blocks come in handy. You can actually sit on the blocks. That feels nice. Or on that blanket. And all I want you to do here is, this is a very simple heroes. We're not going to do anything too strenuous at this point, but I want you to just literally kind of put your fingers on the ground and open up the chest. Often, if we want to go deeper, you can walk yourself back and lie on your back or on your forearms. If you have any knee problems, don't sit like this. Sit on your heels if there's any pain in your knees. And then let's come up. You can feel how already we're stretching out the tops of our thighs. And then let's come back into our tabletop. We'll come into our tabletop. Let's slide the knees back. And we're going to take an inhale and float forward and lower our pubic bone down to the ground. Come all the way down into our Sphinx pose. Elbows under shoulders. Knees on the ground, feet are slightly apart, or they can be together. Taking a breath in, and as you breathe out, lift your heart forward. Your arms are stuck to the ground like glue.
as if they're super glued, but you're trying like mad to pull them back, but they're not going anywhere. That's what I want you to be feeling. And this will help you to telescope your chest further forward, opening up the front of the chest while strengthening the upper back. This is what the shape is with the bow, half of the shape of the bow. And then lower ourselves down. Let's slide the hands to the chest. Exhale. This time either extended child's pose or follow me, downward dog. So in your downward dog, do a few little bends and straightening of the legs. Loosen up those hamstrings, the thigh muscles. Stretch out the calves. So when we bend the knee, it helps to stretch out the front of your thighs a little bit. And then come back to stillness. Bring your feet together. Squeeze the feet together. Take your breath in and look forward, and I want you to hinge forward until your shoulders or wrists are in line. Keep your tailbone lifted as if you're in a cow stretch. And then exhale, press back. You can do this on your hands and knees. If this is inaccessible to you because of wrist issues, do this on your hands and knees. Keep your tailbone lifted. Look forward in front of your hands. This begins to target your abdominal muscles, the middle of your core, and also your thighs, which is the bottom of your core. Inhale, lift up. Hinge forward, come into that shape. It's a modified, it's a variation of a plank. And then come back to your downward dog. Lower your knees to the ground. Take a pause here in your child's pose with the legs together and circle your wrists. Give yourself a little bit of a loosening up of those wrists. Little shake of the head, no. Shake of the head, yes. And then from here, I want you to come onto your hands and knees. Open the knees hip distance apart. Come onto your forearms. Interlace the hands. Make sure you measure out first that your elbows are at the correct distance apart from one another, simply by taking your hands on the upper arms. And then interlace the hands. This is when now you know where that this is fine. This is perfectly good. Interlace the hands for this is called a dolphin we're moving into. Let's take a breath in and arch your back, lift your heart forward into that cat stretch. Then exhale, round through the back, pull the tummy up towards the spine, and then push yourself up into a straight legs or bent knees, whatever works for you. And now what we're doing is stretching out our backs, shoulders, in the opposite direction of what we'll be doing in the bow. Thinking about opposite of what we're doing, the shape is like if you were on your back, this would be, well, no, you wouldn't be. Anyway, it's the opposite of what we do in the bow. And then lower your knees to the ground because it's a forward fold rather than a back bend. And then sit back for a pause in your child's pose. Take a moment here, inhaling and exhale. Then take an inhale, come back into your tabletop, curl the toes under this exhale, downward dog. Let's take a breath in and either walk or you can leap forward if you're a leaper, and forward fold. Let yourself settle in your forward bend, opposite of the back bends. This calms the nervous system down. Feel free to grab hold of the opposite hand to the opposite elbow if that feels nice for you. Or let the hands drop to the ground. Let's take just another deep breath in and breath out. Release the hands from your elbows. Take an inhale, press into your shins, and then exhale, forward fold. And let's inhale, sweep your arms up to the sky. Stretch through those arms. Interlace the hands except for your index finger and reach back
opening up the front of the body. Here we go, the shape that we're moving into, that bow. This is a smaller, gentler version of the bow. Warming up that back. Then exhale, bring the hands together, float the hands forward in front of your chest, trace the center of your body and forward bend, bow down. Take an inhale, let's do that one more time. Press into your shins, exhale, forward fold, and inhale, sweep your arms up to the sky. Interlace those hands except for the index fingers. First lift up, root and rise, and then bend backwards. Ooh. Soften the shoulders down, and then exhale, fold forward, all the way down, forward bend. Feel the difference between the opening, the back bend we just did, and what it feels like when we then counter it with our forward bend. Let's step your right foot back, lower your right knee down. Let's inhale your arms up to the sky. Now from here, I want you to interlace again with the index finger, reaching up, and then inhale, lift first, then exhale, open up that heart. As you do so, as you reach back into this crescent shape, so this is a back bend, just like what we did before, and I want you to take your left knee forward, a little bit further forward, directly over your ankle, squeeze your inner thighs towards each other. And then lower the hands to the ground. Then take a breath in, and as you breathe out, step back into your downward dog. Let's take an inhale, float forward into your plank, lower the knees down or up, and lower it all the way down, chaturanga. We don't have to worry too much about this. We're concentrating more on warming up our spine. So don't worry about the chaturanga as much. So arms next to your sides, forehead on the ground. As you squeeze the legs together, take a breath in. And as you breathe out, lift your legs up and your chest up. Your head up. And your hands can lift as well. As you do this, take your palms are facing up. Reach back as if you're trying to touch those heels with your fingers. Obviously you won't. And squeeze those bottom cheeks. Lift your chest forward, squeeze your shoulder blades towards one another. So already, shape that we're going in soon. Breathing in, and as you breathe out, lower down. This is called the locust. Forehead on the ground, slide your hands next to your chest. Squeeze the elbows towards each other, curl the toes under, pull the tummy muscles in, take an inhale, and then exhale, lift to plank, and then downward dog. Whew. Take a breath in. And take a breath out. Take an inhale and exhale. Find yourself walk to the front of the mat, either jumping or leaping. Whatever way you can get to the front of the mat, forward bend. A nice counter stretch, forward bend. Take an inhale halfway, press into those shins. Exhaling, forward fold, and inhale, sweep your arms up to the sky. Lift, 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 lift. Interlace the hands. Let's go into a mini little back bend. Don't overdo this because we have a few things ahead of us. Then exhale, float forward, all the way down, forward bend. Take a breath in as you're in this, and exhaling, stepping your left foot back, lowering your left knee down. Inhaling, reaching your right arm up to the sky. Interlacing the hands except for your index finger. First, lift up, and then as you exhale, lean back with those hands, open up the chest, squeeze the shoulder blades, just like in the locust pose. And your right knee is telescoping forward or pushing forward as you open up your left hip. Squeeze the inner thighs in towards each other. And then softening around the edges. Remember that effortless effort. I was talking about earlier. Try and turn this into an effort, but effortless at the same time. Softening around the edges, and then lowering the hands to the ground, and just step back into your downward dog. Take a pause here, or take a few breaths in child's pose. But keep your breath moving in and keep your breath moving out. And then lower the knees to the ground. So what we're going to do here is, before we do move into our bow, I want us to do a stretch of the front of the shoulders, and I'm going to actually spin around so you can actually see me on this side. Well, I'll show you on this on the left side. Come onto your stomachs, forehead on the ground, arms out like wings. Okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to slide your left hand towards your left breast, and then, I have to just move my microphone, or else I will sit on it. Let me just get it quickly, so I can do this. Okay, and then roll onto that right shoulder. So what it's going to look like, and your left leg, you're on your right shoulder, left hand is right next to your breast, left foot is behind your right leg. And this is where we're staying. Your right side of the head, just place it on something, on the ground, or even on that blanket I talked about that you had rolled up. Or just let it lie on the mat. So what you're doing here is you're stretching out that right shoulder. Your right arm is out to the side like a wing. And you'll see as I do the other side. And that's inhale, come back, roll back on to your bellies. Just take a pause here, make a little pillow with those arms. And then arms out like airplane wings. And then slide your right hand towards your breasts, and then roll onto your left side. You're on your left hip, your right foot, place it behind your left knee, left side of the head on the ground or on that blanket, pillow, and your left arm reaches out like a wing. Now, if this hurts too much, you can always slide it down. I'm not going to do there's a version where you can actually take your other hand and grasp it, but I'm not doing that for this particular one, just showing you the basics. As you probably feel at this point, you're feeling that you're noticing that this is a front of the shoulder stretch. And then let's fold over, let's come back just onto our bellies and take a pause here. Make a little pillow with your arms. Okay. For the bow, we need our shoulders to be open and supple in order to do the bow. So what the bow is, I'm going to show you options, but the first I'll show you the actual bow itself. You're going to bend your knees and they're about hip distance apart. Flex the feet, and if it's too much, then bring the legs a little bit closer. Now, you take your hands behind you and grab hold of either the top of the foot or the ankle of each foot. Ankle a little bit harder to grab hold of for many of us if you're very tight, especially extra tight in the shoulders or the front of your body. So you can grab hold of the feet. Now some of us might not even get that far. Then you can take a strap and put it around the shins. So that's another example. Okay? I'm not going to actually show that right now because okay, and so what we're going to do, that's that version, and then let me show you then what happens here. In order to prepare to lift up, you start with the forehead on the ground, thighs on the ground, take a breath in, and use your exhalation to pull the tummy in towards the spine, lift your shoulders off the ground, squeeze the shoulder blades together, and then lift the thighs off the ground. Push the ankles into the hands. Look towards the ground, and you're balancing on your belly button, the middle of your body. Your hip bones are obviously touching as well. And we're breathing here and out. Now, that's one version. The other one is, this is where the blanket comes in handy. If you find, oh, I can't really do this, this is too much on my hips or my back, I'm not very flexible, take the blanket, or some of us have bolsters, you can even put a bolster, place it right underneath the navel. And same thing, grab hold of the feet, and your knees will not come off the ground in this version, but you will be able to lift your the upper part of your body up. And then lower. So that's another option. Whew, okay, let's try that together. We'll do one together. Remember, you will not be able to get your knees off the ground when you do have a blanket under the belly button, but it's a really nice way, a modification if you cannot possibly lift your can't come into a regular bow. So bring your legs together about hip distance apart, flex the feet or grab hold of the tops of the feet. Take a breath in, head on the ground. And then as you exhale, squeeze your shoulder blades together, lift your thighs off the ground, kick your feet into your hands, and you're looking towards the ground. You're not looking forward, making sure you don't tweak your neck muscles, your cervical spine. And you should be feeling bottom cheeks working. Squeeze those bottom cheeks and then lower down. And let's just take a little bit of a wiggle from side to side. And then from here, lift up into your all fours. First, before we counter it with our embryo pose. Squeeze the legs together, take a breath in, and then settle into your embryo. Embryo can be arms in front, or you can drape your arms next to your legs, forehead on the ground, or on, welcome to that blanket. Put your forehead on the blanket. Best friend. When I was doing it on the blanket, I definitely felt, and I have a little bit of a sciatica, and not terrible, but every once in a while I have a flare up. I could feel that. So if you have sciatica, maybe not the best thing to do. And also high blood pressure that's not treated, just be very careful. That probably not highly recommended, these back bends. So sit up onto your heels and then come onto your right hip. And you should feel. Even if you couldn't get your knees off the ground, you couldn't get your chest off the ground, you could even grab hold of your feet, it's a starting point. The other option is not to do the bow and to do we can do half bow at some point. I could teach you the half bow. But also you can do that locust that we did earlier with just, with both legs and arms up, with the arms back behind us on our tummies. That's another option. So there's lots of modifications. You don't have to do the full peak pose. It's just what we work towards. Let's lower ourselves onto our backs, not on our tummies, on our backs, and let's take a pause here for a moment. Hug the knees into your chest. You will feel muscles. I say this in all my classes, really. But there are these muscles that we rarely use in our everyday lives. And all of a sudden we do a pose like the bow. And it's like, oh, okay, I had muscles there and I have muscles here. So you learn a lot about your body through doing these specific postures, working our way into those peak poses. Let's just take a moment, let our knees drop together, feet wide. I'm going to just let you take a moment to release your lower back in this position where the knees are touching. And let's just let the breath begin to settle down. Soften the shoulders, soften the face. And then let's extend your left leg to the left corner of the mat, right to the right. I want to give you enough time to do your Shavasana. And let the arms settle out to the sides, a few inches from your sides, palms facing up. Let the eyes close. Your hips should feel pretty open by now, that it feels comfortable to be in this position. Your chest, all that wonderful opening of the front of the body that doesn't get to be open on a regular basis because you're usually leaning forward, grounded on computers. So this is one of the best ways to reverse all those habitual patterns, physical patterns that we've become used to. So for the next few moments, just settle in. And I will let you know with the ring of my meditation bowl when we're ready to come out of this pose and get on with our days. Always feel free to continue on with your Shavasana. It's recommended for about 2 to 5 minutes. The longer the practice, the longer the Shavasana. But if you're ready, keeping your eyes closed, let's bring the legs together. Let's take a breath in once the legs are together, and as you breathe in, stretch the arms away from the legs. And as you breathe out, hug your knees into your chest. Rolling onto your right side and pausing in a fetal shape. Just staying here for just a moment. And then slowly and gently finding your way up into your cross-legged seat, taking your time. And once you're there, I'm going to venture to guess that you're feeling much more open in the front of the body. And one of the beauties of the bow and these back bends is that they help with stretching out the tummy muscles, but they're also really good at assisting in our digestion.
So people who might have constipation or chronic digestive issues, this is a nice one to do. Or even the Locust, when you don't have to grab hold of the back of your feet. Locust is a good one as well. So there's lots of benefits. I could probably spend most of the class just talking about them. So as we bring our hands in front of our heart to seal the practice for this bow session, a wonderful way to kind of start your day or lunch, a night's lunch class, and it's also wonderful for evenings. Either one, whenever you take this class, it's just perfect. Thank you for being with me. Namaste, everyone. This is Rebecca Jane from Yoga with Rebecca Jane, and I'll see you soon.